All right, what's going on there, fellas? I just finished up a tough deadlift day. I got that all filmed. I'll get that voiced over. I'll probably get that up for you guys to watch tomorrow. I was going to do it tonight, but I came across something on my Instagram that I wanted to just kind of clue people in on because maybe you guys will find this interesting in the same way I find this interesting. So John Haack, you all know who he is, arguable GOAT of powerlifting, him or Ed Cohn, kind of similar LeBron Jordan type thing where one of them is still making their case. We'll see where he ends up. He is competing tomorrow, and he just did his weigh-in. Untested meets have 24-hour weigh-ins. Guys will do big water cuts and try to rehydrate, but John's scale at home that he was basing his cut off of was significantly off in weight. So he cut 6 pounds past what he needed to make 198, which is quite a bit for someone who's already making a sizable and difficult cut. John has said a bunch of times now that his goal before he moves up to the 220 weight class is to total 2,300 at 198, and then he'll be satisfied with what he has done in the 198s, move on trying to match Ed Cohn's single ply total at 220. He's been talking about this for quite a while as being like some of his big landmark goals. Last meet he did hit the 2,300, but he had to pull the plug on the water cut because it was not going so well. So John being a very smart lifter, I'm sure after struggling with his last water cut, he started from a little bit lower point in terms of dieting to maybe he's water cutting from 215 instead of 225, whatever the hell it is. He's posted the specifics. I wish I remembered them off the top of my head. He's clearly going to start his water cut from a little bit lower, learn from the past mistakes, but going 6 pounds past, each pound you go past in the water cut, from having done boxing and done water cuts, that shit is miserable and each pound is harder than the last. It gets really, really stressful because you really start to wonder about your ability to regain this weight, how it's going to affect your performance the next day. And I'm guessing he really, really had to suffer for those last 6 pounds because he wants to be done with the 198 class and kind of move on in that career story arc. So he's willing to do however long in the sauna. Whereas last time he was like, I want to make sure I still compete well. Things are kind of going sour, but I'll pull the plug and I'll just weigh in as a light 220. This time I'm guessing he was just staying in no matter what, and that was a hard 6 pounds to strip. So I would suspect he's not in a great position for tomorrow. I'm sure that's going to take a bit out of him, but if he pulls off his goal and if he totals 2,300, it will crush the highest dots of all time. That extra 6 pounds lost will make a pretty big difference on top of the fact that he didn't already make it to 198 for the last meet. Right now, the highest dots in wraps is Colton the Limit Breaker, freak lifter, super impressive, but everybody's like, highest dots. He's like, I think he's only out dotsing John's sleeve total by 1. To me, John is still the better lifter there, though Colton's very young and up and coming and will probably make a case for himself very quickly. John's still the better one there, but if John manages 2,300 total at weighing in at 192 and a half or whatever the hell it was, he will total 20 to 25 dots above what Colton the Limit Breaker did and retake not only the highest, break his own highest sleeved dots, but beat the wrapped highest dots substantially as well. So kind of interesting. Those of you who like to keep up with this, keep an eye on it tomorrow. We might see a really John struggle due to some unfortunate circumstances of not double checking his scale and having a really, really tough water cut, or we're going to see the greatest performance in powerlifting history. And while we're here, obviously I care about this stuff. I think it's interesting. We got the Deadlift World Championships in Strongman tomorrow. Will the 505 kg fall? I don't reckon it will. Going over the 3 candidates to get it. I'm not going to talk about the whole show. You guys don't follow me to give my fucking amateur strongman predictions. I figured I wasn't going to even do a video covering the Deadlift World Championships unless I had this to talk about as well. I figured, why not tack it on to the end? So talking about the 3 people who have a shot. Rano, love Rano, Masters Deadlift World Record holder, won the Deadlift Championships last year with like 475 kilos. Something to that general effect. He's a little too old. I don't think he had the prep he needed. I would be very surprised if Rano pulled it off, but I would be very happy because I'm a big Rano guy. I think he's very funny. And if he really dark horsed this one, I would be over the moon, but very, very doubtful. Number 2, this one pains me. We've got Graham Hicks. Graham was so far ahead of schedule for most of his prep. He was worried about being ready too early. and he pulled back a lot of his training days. It looked like, oh man, he's on pace to it. He's doing everything that Thor did in preparation. Based on what we know of Eddie's preparation, it looks like he was following the blueprint to a T. Very technical lifter, always been very statically strong, did monster numbers in training on the axle for years, as that's just how he trained. And I was like, man, people are writing him off. There's this weird fanboyism where only Eddie and Thor could do it. And it's like probably other guys could do it. If it was just like all he was focused on, Tom Stoltman might be able to do it. Mitch Hooper might be able to do it. This like mythos of only these guys could possibly do it. Of course, there's a couple others. So you get those comments, and everybody was very disparaging towards Graham Hick's attempt. And I was like, I don't know, man. He's on a pretty good pace until his like 475 keys he did in training. Rough lockout. I'm sure that won't be him at his best because he won't have decayed fatigue as he did for a comp peak. I'm sure it'll be a little bit better. That's a little bit misleading. Myself, being a mediocre mid 800 pound deadlifter, the difference between like my last heavy touch in training, do the full deload, go heavy in competition is pretty substantial. I can only imagine it's even more exaggerated when we get up to those weights, but it moved so poorly, it really kind of wrecked my confidence, and it makes me wonder, like, what if he hadn't taken the foot off the gas when he felt he was ahead of schedule, and he kept it down a little bit, knowing, hey, maybe I'm a little bit disproportionately good at reps, I'll have to go in above and beyond, like what Thor did in preparation. Do I think he can get it? No, but I wouldn't be shocked, because I did say for a lot of his prep that he's closer to on pace than a lot of people were giving him credit for. I don't know, 15% chance, number just completely made up. And then I guess most likely of the three, Mr. Attempt 505 kg over and over, Ivan Makarov. He's been so close that there's always just a dice roll. It's like, what if he gets it this time? What if his hitch just lines up? A lot of people say, you can't hitch 500. It's just too heavy to hitch. Probably wrong. Ivan trains heavy hitches above 500 kg off of blocks. He's hit numbers off of blocks. He does a pretty advantageous setup where he's got a thick inner plate to a dubious lockout standard. And it's like, I think when you're preparing for levels that high, you need to replicate the training setup. I think just everybody that's had success at that level is generally training on straight kilos because the mechanics are pretty fundamentally different. Using a thick innermost plate to lift more in training, I don't know. I think that kind of doesn't bode well for him. But I think 33, like 1 in 3 chance Ivan just hitches it right, gets a strongman down signal because we have no side judges, and is now the 505 kg guy, has that for the rest of his life to market his coaching, and rides off into the sunset because goddamn, that guy has pushed his health to the fucking limit for this one. I hope he gets it. Dude's been going hard. Don't necessarily think he organizes his training as well as some of the other guys in contention for it, but god damn, it's not for a lack of effort. So I kind of hope he gets it. Most likely of the three in my mind. I wish we could see a peak form Payman. I'm not going to try his last name. I believe he's Iran's strongest man, visa issues habitually, but when he's in shape, I honestly think he would have the greatest chance of those listed athletes. Obviously, highest chance to be half Thor. He might focus on it, might break his own record. Talking about doing it raw. Fucking might be able to do it. He's Thor. He's just better than the rest of us. But I would pick Payman to be one of the most likely other guys. Had he not gotten in a car accident, I think Pavlo Nekonechny was actually closer than people think. His attempt in contest was not very good. And he mentioned that he got food poisoning, got sick and lost weight like right beforehand. Everybody's like, excuses, excuses. And it's like, no, I think performance, especially at the highest level of super heavyweight lifting, is so finicky. Yeah, if I lost 10 pounds from food poisoning, I'm going to have a bad training session. If he loses 10 pounds before a contest because of food poisoning, he's going to have a bad contest. I genuinely believe him. I don't think he was just fibbing to cover for the fact that it wasn't a close attempt after he trained with a big banner in the back. I genuinely believe, based on his 475 kilos, that Pavlo was at that level if it wasn't for the food poisoning. Got in a big car accident, very bad injuries, now is coming back. I don't know if I want to see this suited deadlift record pushed more, but I would love to see people contest for the raw, continue contesting the raw deadlift record like what's happened at the Shaw, and I would love to see Pavlo Nekonechny post, like really focused on that. I think he's one of the guys that could just push that upward and upward, and maybe give Thor a run for his money because he's still really young. And then as far as the guys doing the full show, I don't think any of them will get 505 kg. I think I was just watching Lucas's video, and I think he's right. There's a solid chance there's just a massive traffic jam of everybody that's doing the full show that did get the 1,000 pounds. And then they just kind of start competing from there all tied because they don't get to pick their own jumps. But I do think Mitch Hooper has a very solid chance at the 475 keys. wouldn't be surprised if he got it done. It's Mitch Hooper, unfortunately, just fucking everything goes that guy's way. 2, I think Matt Ragg, pretty solid chance of getting the 475 keys. I know historically maybe it wasn't at his best. Changer Man talked about he wasn't at his best at the Shaw, but also has talked about how he doesn't get a tremendous amount out of the suit, but wouldn't be surprised if he got it done. And then Austin Andrade, I do think, based on his training, has definitely a shot. So those are the 3 guys I could see potentially placing the highest of everybody doing the full show. That's been my take on shit.